think you've just heard a lot of chatter about, what we're asking for is not sustainable for the business. Being on this side with Unrivaled, I know what it takes to run a sustainable business. So I think if they can't find a model that makes that happen, they need to put people in place who can, because we've proven that it is possible. There is a way, and we're thriving in that.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. How entitled can you be? How ignorant do you have to be to go on national television and brag about a business that is losing money? Not only are you bragging about an unprofitable business, you're also telling the commissioner of another unprofitable business how to lose more money. This is one of the many reasons that I am so critical of the pretend basketball players in the WNBA, or in the case of Napheesa Collier, the pretend basketball player who is also pretending to run a profitable business. When the reality is, the polished turd known as Unrivaled is actually running as a charity. For those that don't know, and judging by the complete lack of attention that this secondary dump is currently receiving, I think it's safe to say that no one knows. Monday afternoon, Unrivaled officially started their second season of huge embarrassing failure. TNT. I almost feel bad for TNT. What a fall from grace. TNT went from broadcasting the NBA to broadcasting 3-on-3 pretend basketball featuring 6 players on the court that struggle to be recognized by their own parents. Seriously, check out this list of stars in the highly anticipated matchup Monday afternoon between the Vinyl and the Shoelaces. Eric Wheeler, Jack Young, Ray Burrell, and who? That doesn't sound like a basketball roster. It sounds like the night shift crew at 5-Star Franks. And Napheesa Collier, she expects me to believe that this is a sustainable business? To make matters worse, she has the audacity to go on national television and tell Cathy Engelbert and Adam Silver how to run their business? This would be like the owner of an unprofitable Airbnb telling the CEO of Hilton how to run a profitable national hotel chain. Since Napheesa Collier wants to brag about her sustainable business while insinuating that Cathy Engelbert is an unqualified doofus, which, by the way, Cathy Engelbert is the only one involved in these negotiations who is trying to keep the WNBA dump out of bankruptcy. But since Napheesa Collier wants to brag about her so-called sustainable business, Uncle KC decided to look into some numbers. I wanted to know just how sustainable 3-on-3 pretend basketball was. Because if the WNBA isn't a sustainable business with the backing of the most popular basketball league in the world, and with the star power of a once-in-a-lifetime draw like Caitlyn Clark, if the dump, the original dump, if they're not sustainable, there is absolutely no way that Unrivaled is making money, right? Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. By the time you guys are seeing this video, it's probably late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. I've been out of town all day today on Wednesday, taking one of my Yorkies, Chewy, to a specialist. I hope we will be back to regular schedule on Thursday. I don't know. Chewy has something going on in her mouth. Could be cancerous. Might not be. We hope to find out tomorrow. So, hope to be back to normal tomorrow. We'll just have to see how it goes. According to Front Office Sports, During their first year as a sustainable business, Unrivaled generated $27 million in revenue. This is amazing! Not only is Napheesa Collier a legendary basketball player, she's also a titan of business. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes! This is where the disconnect seems to be between WNBA players and the league, with Napheesa Collier being the owner or co-owner of Unrivaled. With Napheesa Collier being the one responsible for running this sustainable business, you would think she understands the difference between revenue and profit, but clearly she doesn't. Since Mrs. Collier doesn't understand the difference, Uncle Casey will explain it. Revenue is the amount of money that you are bringing in. In the case of Unrivaled, which doesn't draw flies to a fresh turd on television, last year, this fresh turd averaged 186,000 viewers per game. There are reruns of Beavis and Tim Walls, or as Beavis prefers to call him, Butthead. There are reruns of Beavis and Butthead drawing higher ratings on television than Unrivaled. The revenue generated by Unrivaled, it comes from generous donations from sponsors and a massive donation from TNT. Of the $27 million generated last year, TNT was responsible for $17 million. Even with that massive donation, Unrivaled still found a way to lose money, which means they didn't generate a single peso in profit. Yet, for some reason, Napheesa Collier wants to tell Cathy Engelbert how to run the WNBA. To make matters worse, she wants Cat Engelbert to be replaced by someone who, in her words, knows how to run the WNBA. Translation: Napheesa Collier wants Cathy Engelbert to be replaced by someone who will give in to the unreasonable demands of WNBA players. The WNBA dump was launched by David Stern, the ultimate capitalist, back in the late 90s. The same David Stern that turned the NBA into a multi-billion-dollar empire. Dave was a brilliant businessman. If there was one thing Dave Stern knew how to do, he knew how to monetize professional basketball. In the 20 or so years that David Stern was running the WNBA, the dump lost an estimated $200 million. If David Stern couldn't find a way to monetize this turd, who in the hell can? They have been trying for 3 decades to figure out a way to monetize women's basketball. They have spent millions on marketing. They have used the paid propagandists in the mainstream media to lie to the general public. You have got to see these elite athletes. I have never seen someone airball a layup and a dunk at the same time. This league is incredible. In 30 years, they haven't found a way to monetize the WNBA. And Napheesa Collier expects me to believe that she has all the answers? Napheesa Collier expects me to believe that because Unrivaled is vastly overpaying their pretend basketball players, the WNBA should be doing the same thing? A week or two ago, the WNBA rejected the latest proposal from entitled WNBA players. According to ESPN, WNBA players were demanding 30% of the league's revenue. Again, this is where they fail to understand the difference between revenue and profit. Players are demanding to be paid based on the revenue that the league is generating. They just can't seem to understand that the league still isn't generating profit. If Cathy Engelbert acquiesced to these unreasonable demands, the WNBA would lose $700 million in the next 5 to 7 years. Translation: the WNBA would cease to exist. Basically, Napheesa Collier and her colleagues, they are attempting to push the WNBA into bankruptcy. She is lashing out at Cathy Engelbert on national television because Cat refuses to bite the stinky cheese her players are serving, which is why Napheesa Collier is demanding that someone else take over these negotiations. It doesn't matter who takes over. The answer is going to be the same. There is not a CEO in the country that would agree to these terms. There's not a CEO in the country that would willingly put their business at this level of risk. Like I have been telling you guys since Caitlyn Clark came into the league, the success of Caitlyn Clark came at the worst time for the WNBA because her success, it gave the illusion that the entire WNBA was successful. Caitlyn Clark gave the illusion that people are watching pretend basketball, when the reality is people are watching Caitlyn Clark. If you don't believe me, go ask Angel Reese. As a result, it gave already entitled WNBA players a massive boost to entitlement. When Napheesa Collier claims that women's basketball is thriving here at Unrivaled, we're doing great. Napheesa Collier's not lying to you. She's not being dishonest. In her mind, Unrivaled is doing great. In her mind, women's basketball is growing. But again, it's an illusion. Unrivaled isn't thriving. Unrivaled is being subsidized by TNT, and if they don't start drawing ratings, they will be looking for another subsidizer. On paper, women's basketball has shown growth over the last couple of years, but from the WNBA's perspective, it's not about the last 2 years. It's about the next 5 to 10 years, because the WNBA knows what Uncle KC knows. Matter of fact, I would not be surprised if Cathy Engelbert watches Uncle KC and uses his infinite wisdom while negotiating with players who have no understanding of how business works. Last summer, I told you guys repeatedly that the WNBA was losing steam. I saw it in my personal analytics. I saw it on other channels who cover the WNBA exclusively. I saw it throughout the media. When you compare the 2025 season to the 2024 season, there was a massive decline in mainstream interest. Why? There were no storylines. There was no drama. You see, the mythical racism can only carry you so far. The jealousy, the resentment of Caitlyn Clark, it can only carry you so far. Like I've said for years with this dump of a league, there will come a time where you're expected to perform. There will come a time where the drama gets old. The storylines aren't as entertaining. And you'll have to rely on the product on the court to maintain interest. Problem is, the WNBA product is the drizzling shits. I know this sounds harsh, but women's basketball is not entertaining. It's just not. Yes, they have a niche audience. Yes, some people will watch, but on a mainstream level, and especially when you're talking about players making millions of dollars a year, contrary to the belief of Napheesa Collier, that business model is not sustainable. And Cathy Engelbert knows it. Adam Silver knows it. If I see interest in the WNBA declining, don't you think they see it too? And that's the point of contention in negotiations for a new CBA. WNBA players believe they are mainstream stars. WNBA players believe they are capable of maintaining this level of growth long term. And the league and everyone else has serious doubts. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.